The dust motes danced in the afternoon sunbeams, slicing through the high windows of the Willow Creek Karate Academy. On the polished hardwood floor, a young man named Blake stood, his black belt a stark contrast against his clean white GI. At 26, Blake was the Academy's rising star, a sharp, arrogant instructor whose talent was matched only by his condescending nature. He watched with a sneer as the day's final class concluded, his gaze flicking to the quiet figure of Marcus. Marcus, a man in his late 50s with a face lined by a lifetime of hard work, was the Academy's custodian. Every day, he worked tirelessly, his strong, dark hands pushing a broom across the very floor where Blake taught. Marcus moved with a quiet dignity, a gentle smile for anyone who met his eye. He had been cleaning this dojo for years, a fixture as constant as the smell of fresh linen and wood polish. Though he never caused trouble, he often felt Blake's judgmental eyes on him, a silent, seething prejudice. That evening, as Marcus began his routine, sweeping with a rhythmic, steady motion, Blake decided it was time for some cruel entertainment. "Hey, old man," Blake called out, his voice dripping with condescension. The remaining students turned, their curiosity piqued. "I see you watching our training every day. Why don't you drop that broom and fight me? Maybe you'll learn something useful." A few uncomfortable snickers rippled through the group. Marcus paused his sweeping, his hands resting on the broom handle. He looked at Blake with a calm, even gaze. "Thank you, but I'm just here to clean," Marcus replied, his voice a low rumble. He simply wanted to avoid a scene. "Oh, what's wrong? Scared, old man?" Blake sneered, stepping closer, his stance an open challenge. "Or is your kind not built for a real fight?" The public humiliation felt like a knife twisting in Marcus's gut. But in that moment, something shifted within him. It was a spark of wounded dignity, a sense that he could not let this stand. "If that's what you want, I accept your challenge," Marcus said, his voice surprisingly firm. He carefully leaned the broom against the wall and walked to the center of the mat. The dojo fell into a stunned silence. Students formed an impromptu circle, their eyes wide with disbelief. Blake assumed a fighting stance, confident in his superior technique and youth. Marcus, however, stood with a simple, unadorned posture, his eyes betraying a quiet resolve. Blake lunged, a flurry of kicks and punches designed to end the fight quickly and reinforce his superiority. But Marcus moved with a shocking fluidity. He dodged the first attacks with a grace that no one, least of all Blake, had anticipated. The arrogant smile on Blake's face vanished, replaced by confusion and then mounting frustration. It became clear that Marcus was no mere cleaner. The humble man was a master, revealing a hidden past with every precise, powerful movement. The tension in the dojo became unbearable. Students held their breath, a mix of fascination and shock on their faces. Blake, losing his composure, fought with unrefined rage, while Marcus, calm and composed, demonstrated a mastery that rattled everyone's assumptions. Finally, Marcus deftly sidestepped a wild strike and countered with a technique that left Blake frozen, his body twisted in a position that left him helpless. The dojo was dead silent. All eyes were on Marcus, his tranquil breathing a stark contrast to Blake's humiliated, ragged gasps. But Blake's humiliation quickly turned into a venomous rage. "Who the hell do you think you are, you filthy janitor?" he screamed, his face red with fury. "Don't you dare touch me with those dirty hands again. Get back to cleaning floors. That's all you're good for." A wave of uncomfortable murmurs spread through the students. Some winced, others turned their heads away in shame. One young student discreetly pulled out his phone, starting to record the scene. Blake continued his tirade, desperately trying to salvage his shattered ego. "This is what happens when we let scum like you in here. You just turn everything to garbage." Marcus stood motionless, his eyes burning with a dignified fire. He absorbed every insult, his posture unyielding, a testament to his moral strength. "Are you finished?" Marcus's voice was deep and commanding, silencing the room once more. Blake, emboldened by the perceived lack of a physical response, stepped closer, his face inches from Marcus's. "What's wrong, old man? Cat got your tongue? You're nothing here. You never were, and you never will be." He placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder, shoving him slightly. What? Not going to respond. You coward. Marcus slowly lifted his arm and gently removed Blake's hand from his shoulder. He looked him squarely in the eyes. I'm not what you think I am, Blake. You don't know me at all. I have shown you respect. But if you insist on this, you will face the consequences of your own hatred. For the first time, Blake saw genuine fear in his own reflection, a flicker of panic in his eyes. As Marcus took a slow, deliberate step forward, Blake instinctively recoiled. Everyone held their breath, expecting a final, devastating blow. But Marcus did something no one saw coming. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and stepped back. I won't stoop to your level, Blake, he said, his voice calm but authoritative. Because I already won, and you lost the moment you opened your mouth. The dojo erupted in murmurs of astonishment. Marcus's words were more devastating than any physical strike. Humiliated and trembling with impotent rage, Blake screamed and lunged, throwing a sucker punch. But with a movement as swift as lightning, Marcus cleanly deflected the blow, spun, and used a simple but lethal joint lock to send Blake crashing to the mat that he knelt, leaning in close. I told you, you don't know who you're dealing with. From the back of the room, the Academy's senior master, an old man named Mr. Henderson, rose from his seat. He walked slowly to the center of the mat, his presence radiating an undeniable authority. He approached Marcus, looked at him with profound respect, and bowed deeply. Your spirit, your technique, and your control are greater than anyone here, Mr. Henderson said, his voice solemn. Who are you, truly? Marcus looked at the master, then at the stunned faces of the students. I was a national karate champion in my home country. I taught for years until I lost everything. I came here seeking peace, not a fight. But sometimes, life forces you to remember who you are. Blake, still on the floor, began to stir, his face red, his fists trembling with a hatred that ran deeper than just a moment. He let out a primal scream. You're just a rat, a pest that never should have been here. Mr. Henderson, who had been watching with a hard expression, finally spoke, his voice booming for the first time in years. Enough. He walked to Blake, who was still on the floor, and looked at him with cold disappointment. This isn't about karate. It's about respect, and you no longer deserve to wear that belt. He then turned to Marcus, and with a reverence that took everyone's breath away, he asked, Marcus, would you accept a position here not as a cleaner, but as a master? Marcus was visibly surprised. He had never sought this. I didn't come here looking for a place on the mat, he replied softly. But if I can teach these young people something more than just technique, if I can teach them to fight what's inside, not just what's outside, then yes, I will stay. An applause, genuine and heartfelt, erupted from the students. That day, Marcus began his first class, not with combat, but with a simple phrase that resonated in every heart present. We are not here to learn how to hit. We are here to learn how to stand up without hatred, and to understand that the strongest enemy you will ever face is not on the mat, but within yourself. The dojo was forever changed, its spirit revitalized by a quiet man who had become a living legend.